palm oil has become the poster child of environmental destruction. It's in everything from our snack foods to skincare, and tropical rainforests are being razed to make space for the world's skyrocketing demands. In the process, we're endangering our closest relatives and destabilizing our climate. But despite its bad reputation, palm oil may in fact be our best source of vegetable oil. So how should we be feeding the world's hunger for oil without destroying the planet? Every square meter of palm oil plantation typically produces this much oil. From the same land area, you'd only get this much rapeseed oil and this much soybean. So replacing palm oil would mean using far more land. The oil palm's productivity is one reason it's often the cheapest vegetable oil that money can buy. The truth is, oil palm is the most efficient oil crop we have, and palm oil demand will potentially double by 2050.
Hi everyone, we're from Syndicate 9, Blemba 31A from SBM ITB Jakarta. Welcome to our presentation about scenario planning in agribusiness industry, namely PT Astra Agro Lestari as our project for strategic decision making and negotiation lecture. Before we start, we will introduce our team member, and the member of our team are Mbak Feni Sofian.
Hello everyone.
Mbak Helena Octaviana.
Hi everyone.
Mas Mumtaz Anwari.
Hello guys.
Mbak Nishtya Kurniasari.
Hi.
And myself, Resa Regina. The outline of today's presentation are: the first one, company overview and definition of scenario planning. Second one, define user key focal issue, scope and time period. And then driving forces and critical uncertainties, scenario planning, and implication and option. For company overview and definition of scenario planning, please welcome Mas Mumtaz Anwari.
Okay, thank you Mbak Resa for the explanation. I will continue to explain about scenario planning. Scenario planning is making assumption on what the future is going to be and how your business environment will change over time in light of that future. More precisely, scenario planning is identifying a specific set of uncertainties, different realities of what might happen in the future of your business. It sounds simple and possibly not worth the trouble or specific effort. However, building this set assumption is probably the best thing you can ever do, help guide your organization in the long term. There are three types of scenario planning, such as adaptive learn. It's about make future explicit in order for organization to best adapt and thrive in those futures. And the next one is transformative learn. It's about making futures explicit in order for organization to transform the situation to influence what happens in the future. That one is strategic reframing learn. It's about making the future explicit in order for organization to reframe and represent the future, allow intervention in its strategic choices. And then there are three usages of scenario planning, such as test the strategy fitness of strategy against multiple plausible futures. And then reconsider available options to revisit current assumption. Consider and explore wide range of possibilities. And then next is develop new options. In about view of the future and recognize, adapt, and take advantage of changes. And the last one is to open up a key conversation to promote high level of learning. And then there are several phases of scenario planning, such as orientation, to define the user's background research, interview, and then to define the scope and key focal issue, understand the business idea, and identify who are the participants to the processes. The second one is purpose is to identify driving forces and critical uncertainties surrounding users and the research on each revenue stream. The third one is scenarios and narrative creation. Is to select critical uncertainties as framework of scenarios and then create narrative on each scenarios. The fourth is consequences and option consideration. It's a discussion on implication of scenarios to all organization and options available, and then identify early warning signals for each scenario. And the last one is integration. It is the use of the scenarios, which integrates into management processes. And as mentioned before, today our syndicate will do this planning for Astra Agro Lestari, or usually called Astra Agro.
Established in the early 1980s, PT Astra Agro Lestari is the largest palm plantations and CPO producers in Indonesia. PT Astra Agro Lestari plays a significant role in Indonesia and the world in fulfilling the demand of vegetable oil, particularly palm oil-based. Listed in the Indonesian Stock Exchange in 1977 as a publicly listed company, with the majority shares owned by PT Astra International Tbk. Our business comprises of palm plantations, covering plantation areas in Sumatra, Kalimantan, and Sulawesi, which produces raw materials in the form of crude palm oil and palm kernel.
Astra Agro Lestari is one of the world's largest listed oil palm companies, with a track record of over 35 years and over 235,000 hectares of nucleus plantations across Sumatra, Kalimantan, and Sulawesi. It applies industry best practices in plantation management techniques, which contributed to improve productivity and CPO extraction rates. Astra Agro Lestari has an integrated business model spanning across the value chain, covering upstream, midstream, downstream, and consumer, also industrial products. It has strategic planning of palm oil mills and infrastructure to ensure logistics efficiency and maximize CPO quality. Astra Agro Lestari also has an experienced management team and strong support from controlling shareholder, which is PT Astra International, providing significant synergies. PT Astra Agro Lestari also having vision and mission. Their vision is to be the most productive and innovative agribusiness company in the world. And their mission is to be the role model and contribute to the nation's development and prosperity. To achieve the above purpose and objective, the company may perform several business activities such as agriculture and animal husbandry, trading, processing industry or agro industry, transportation, and other services such as management consultation. And for the next explanation will be presented by Mbak Nisha. Please welcome Mbak Nisha to explain the next topic.
Okay, thank you, Mas Mumtaz. I'm going to explain about key focal issues and pastel analysis. Although the controversy regarding palm oil production is one of the critical drivers for biodiversity and environmental destruction, based on the report published by the International Union for Conservation of Nature or IUCN, palm oil is the most productive with less land use than other vegetable oils. With the demand that is expected to increase double in 2050, along with the increase of world population, the palm oil is the solution to fulfill future global demand. Hence, the global sustainable palm oil movement should be promoted to stimulate the future demand for palm oil. Meanwhile, as the biggest producer and exporter of palm oil country that controls 60% of the world's vegetable oil market share, Indonesia still needs to improve its productivity. Therefore, we made a scenario to answer the question: how is Astra Agro Lestari resilient in the palm oil industry and able to increase its production to fulfill the global market demand for vegetable oil? This question will be answered by our explanation later. Next is for the analysis of Astra Agro Lestari business. We use pastel analysis, which can evaluate the key external factors such as politics, economy, social, technology, legal, and environment that influence an organization. It can be used in a range for different scenarios and can be guide for strategic decision making. The first key factors is politics. Politics can be affected by government regulation, global political situation, and climate change act. For the economy, can be affected by tariff and non-tariff barriers, local and export competitiveness, export tax and levy, TSPO and premium price, and also carbon tax. And for the social, can be affected by renewable energy trends, criticism against deforestation, consumer shift to alternative products, and also indigenous people. For the technology, can be affected by advancement for new agro-industrial technology and also innovation of agricultural production. And for environment, can be affected by climate change, green investment, and sustainable movement. And for the last but not least, it's legal, can be affected by international organization concession, economic, environment, and also moratorium policy. The next explanation will be presented by my fellow team member. Please welcome Mbak Helena.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Nisha. So I will explain to you about the driving forces, then the critical uncertainties. After seeing the big picture of the surrounding environment through pastel analysis, political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal, we carry out an exploration step which will look specifically at three aspects or scopes, from the aspects that are very closely related to the company and are faced daily, until those beyond the company's control, which are organization environment, transactional environment, and contextual environment. For the organization environment, this aspect is under the control of the company and can be managed by the company, which are the company strategy, is the essence of the how company is able to distinguish itself from competitors or similar business. So the company has its characteristics that are able to attract customers. And then management competency. It talks about the ability of the team management to manage all resources in the company and create a positive and active working atmosphere. Then resource readiness is also determining factors, even the most significant one, because whether or not a company is developing is determined by whether or not the existing resources are ready or willing to take this step. And then plantation capacity, considering that this business is closely related to product produced from the plantation, the availability of adequate capacity is also an important thing that must be fulfilled. Then culture and performance is an ambience that can be formed from the result of the daily collaboration within the company. In the last part of the organization environment, we are talking about the company's ability to implement the entire process into digitization. This is to find out how aware the company is with technological advances and the era. Next, for the transactional environment, it talks about the actors who interact with the company in day-to-day business activities. We identified that this scope consists of external suppliers of crude palm oil. This is closely related to our suppliers. Then carbon tax. It's talking about the tax on carbon emission that we have to pay because it relates to the activities we do to produce goods and service. Then, local and export competitiveness. This includes our business competitors. Next, export taxes and levy are costs that companies need to pay each time they export the CPO. Then CSPO and premium price is a fee that must be paid annually for the form of certification and surveillance. And then FFB third party, which is the party will distribute and guarantee the distribution of CPO and CPKO. Then green wave customers are customers who are very aware of the environmental issue and very concerned about the impact of the company's operation on environmental pollution. And then purchasing power of customer. This is closely related to the acceptance of our products by customers because there is still demand and the need and also the availability of maintained purchasing power. The last aspect scope is about the contextual environment. The detail actually already explained in the pastel slide, but in the outline, it talks about the things that we can't control, which are still uncertain, which tend to be ignored, but we can see the sign in the future and their enormous impact will affect the user transactional world and drive major change in the user business. So we divide it into the tariff and non-tariff barrier, climate change, renewable energy trend, government regulation, the availability of substitute materials such as vegetable oil, then the carbon regulation, global political situation, the green investment, the policy about economic things, then also the policy about the environment, and the last one is the international organization concession. Next, for the critical uncertainties. As we already mentioned before, in the business environment part, there are 26 driving forces. After we assess and evaluate each of these driving factors, we conclude that two factors that are very critical of uncertainties are local and export competitiveness and also the resources readiness. About the local and export competitiveness, it talks about external things that we really cannot control, such as market demand and trade competition. Then the next critical factor is resources readiness, which is very closely related to operational excellence. This is closely related to our internal situation, about how far which we can adapt, for example, in terms of productivity and so on. Both of these things are closely related to the element of sustainability. To an extent, business are able to survive and become more mature. The business has to be adapting both internally and externally. Okay, next we will go through to the next part. It talks about the scenario creation that will be presented with my partner, Mbak Feni.
Thank you, Mbak Helena, and hi everyone. I would like to continue Mbak Helena for presenting the narrative creation scenario planning. To create a planning scenario, we choose two critical uncertainties that significantly impact the company's business, namely market competitiveness for domestic and export and resources readiness. Resources readiness, which consists of competence in human resources, capital and assets, as well as productivity. The market framing scenario planning consists of four, namely catastrophe, the worst scenario where market competitiveness is very poor and low resources readiness. The second is a marathon, where resources readiness is high and encourage an increase in productivity, but on the other hand, the market competitiveness is low. For this reason, Astra Agro must be agile and run faster to achieve the goal. Third is a conducive scenario, where the market is very affordable, but the readiness of resources is very low. And the fourth is undefeated, which is the ideal situation for industry and companies where market competitiveness is at the highest level and readiness of resources is also in a very optimal position. Before we go to the scenario of Astra Agro, I would like to give you a brief explanation about the interrelation between the global escalation, both political and economic, to the palm oil industry. As As previously explained, the contextual environment gives a significant impact to the palm oil industry. One of the biggest drivers is supply and demand of vegetable oil in the global market. Trade barriers for tariff and non-tariff, and also global political escalation also plays a significant role to the market competitiveness. For example, what happened in 2022? Yeah, this year, the price of palm oil reached the highest level in the history. The reason is that the supply of other vegetable oils has decreased due to the prolonged drought season. In contrast, the economic recovery after COVID-19 pandemic has increased world demand. In addition, Indonesia, as the world's largest producer and also exporter for palm oil, has also implemented a domestic market obligation policy, even an export ban in April 2022. This situation drives the rise of palm oil price. Another influencing factor is the escalation of global politics, such as the ongoing war in Russia and the Ukraine. Why? Russia is one of the largest natural gas, petroleum, and other commodities producer. Meanwhile, Ukraine is a producer of sunflower oil. So with the disruption of commodity supply from the two countries will give a significant impact to global energy availability that drives global economic turmoil. I divided the scenario into two parts, namely global or external sub-scenario that affect market competitiveness, both domestic and export, and of course, the external sub-scenario will affect the second sub-scenario, namely the company's internal conditions that show readiness resources. The following are four scenarios that will occur with the Indonesian palm oil industry and directly impact to Astra Agro. The first scenario is catastrophe. In this scenario, the external sub-scenario would be World War III and drive the shortage energy and food crisis. Global economic recession, export ban policy by Indonesian government, high palm oil price, and domestic price obligation, and also policy by Indonesian government. The internal, low palm oil stock and scarcity, numerous increase of costs, decreased sales and profit, palm oil, low production, hidden territorial issues, land occupation, and climate catastrophe. The second phase is marathon. Hitting global political escalation, tariff and non-tariff barrier, RED2 by EU Parliament, leak of CSPO or Certified Palm Oil Readiness, low investment or green investment policy, synthetic palm oil product, India and China first palm oil harvest momentum, increased supply of vegetable oil, weak trade agreement between Indonesia and other countries, and carbon tax and regulation implementation. For the internal, excellent productivity, low price, high stock, downstream business development, CSPO and premium price, advanced digitalization, methane capture initiative and reforestation, long dry season, or climate change. For the conducive scenario, external, Russia and Ukraine continued war, drop sunflower oil and gas oil in the market, tariff and non-tariff barrier, green wave market, electric vehicle mandatory, biofuel program, carbon trade and tax, palm oil moratorium policy. For the internal, high price and cost, downstream business development, export barrier affected by CSPO, high turnover, low digital readiness. An undefeated scenario for external, stable global political escalation, strong trade advocacy for tariff barrier, increased trust and knowledge of customer or branding, CSPO readiness and premium price, stable vegetable oil supply, increased world population, high global GDP, global biofuel program, and electric vehicle mandatory. For internal, excellent productivity, downstream business development, CSPO applied, advanced digitalization, carbon trading business, non-palm oil business development, and large EU and US market capitalization, and corporate actions such as merger and acquisition. I will narrate the fourth scenario in a powerful and memorable story. The first story for catastrophe scenario is the most dangerous decade. Astra Agro's business is facing a terrifying decade in the world history. The war between Russia and Ukraine was prolonged and sparked the anger of various other countries. Experts such as billionaire Bill Ackman stated that the current World War III had quite happening and triggering the energy and food crisis. Even worse, hit the world economy. Commodity price will be increased along with the soaring raw material costs. In this full of fear situation, Astra Agro has no way out. The only thing to survive is to protect the asset and focus on domestic and Southeast Asia market. The story of Scenario Marathon is the White Death. The wars between Russia and Ukraine led to a ban on import to Europe Union countries, making winter in Europe even tenser. Europe and other countries with 4 seasons will also be affected. The world economy seems to be frozen, sluggish, and even destroyed. This condition will significantly affect Astra Agro's and palm oil business in general. The slow market will make stocks abundant amid high productivity. Prices are high, but also accompanied by super expensive raw materials. The fourth story of the scenario is the blackout. Starry night in Europe, dark as pitch or coal. Due to the energy crisis as the impact of the war between Russia and Ukraine. The situation could be an opportunity for the palm oil shale market to replace coal as a power plant. Indonesia exports 11 million palm shale shares to Japan annually, including Astra Agro. If the world had known, the energy crisis will not happen. The global needs estimate to increase double in 2030. The palm oil industry had been unable to optimize its productivity. Astra Agro itself is struggling to increase productivity amid the demands of sustainability and the green wave trend from customers. So meeting the sustainability standard while implementing excellent operations to achieve optimum productivity is not an option. The fourth story of the scenario is the green gold blazing. This is when the green gold shines without a single thread of obstruction. Palm oil is the green gold that only grows on the outskirts of the archipelago. Cannot be dull, the whole world sympathized with him, offering him immeasurable value with any cost. Astra Agro reached its golden age at that time. A broad market absorbs high productivity in line with the trend of renewable energy. The world double population is a problem for other unproductive vegetable oil, but this is not a problem for the palm oil industry. Astra Agro has proven to manage the company well and sustainably, hold the sustainability certificate, get the premium price, and broaden the market share. The company also massively developed downstream palm oil business in various products. For next explanation will be presented by Reza.
Thank you, Mbak Feni, for the explanation. Now we move to the last step, which is implication and option. For the first quadrant, we have marathon scenario, where there was war between Russia and Ukraine. It caused higher resource readiness of PT Astra Agro, and it creates our product have low price and excellent productivity. Another implication in this scenario, there will be high tax and trade barriers and advanced digitalization. As for the option that can be done in this scenario are, the first one, company can maximizing current situation and current resource. And then company can downstream business development to absorb internal production and create more value added. The second quadrant, the undivided scenario, where resource readiness and local and export competitiveness is high, happen with some implication, like some certification like RSPO and ISCC will apply. In this ideal scenario, the market condition will get premium price and great market capitalization, then the demand of market and productivity will increase. As for the option that can be done in this scenario are, the first one, company can create a powerful brand, and then do some merger and acquisition for wider business scope, create new business line and wider market capitalization. The third quadrant, the conducive scenario, where local and export competitiveness is high, but resource readiness is low. Company will have some implication, such as high demand on its product, but also in higher price. Company also have some protectionism, regulation and policy, also low production. The option that can be done on this scenario is create knowledge management planning for Astra Agro's employee to complete international environment. And then we have the last one, the worst scenario, catastrophe scenario. On this bad scenario, there's some implication happen, such as global crisis energy and food, followed with price surging, demand and productivity also decrease. But we have some option that we can do on this scenario, such as the first one, analyze potential asset risk and its protection, like asset insurance. And then we can review some unproductive assets to reduce operating costs. And the third option that we can do is we can focus on the segmented customer, as Mbak Feni mentioned before, only in domestic and Southeast Asia market. Okay, I assume that's all for our presentation today for scenario planning PT Astra Agro Lestari. Thank you everyone. I hope you all have a good day. Stay safe and healthy. Bye!